You don't know what you don't know. A lot of people that we speak into, we spend 2 hours just going through them saying simple things like, you claiming your work from home allowance. People are like, oh, can I claim that for me and my business partner? And you're like, yeah, it's 26 quid each.
If you are paying out for anything that's business related from your own personal bank account, claim it back. You get the money reimbursed back to you tax free, and those costs could reduce your corporation tax. And if they've got VAT on them, you can claim the VAT back on them.
Welcome back to another episode of RecTalk. I'm your host, Nitin Sharma, founder, CEO, and all the other stuff of the Rectools.io, the RecTalk podcast, and a proud Curry Cartel member of the Recruitment Curry Club. My guests today are John Hetherington and Stewart Roberts from Mayachi. Mayachi are a Rectools Recommended supplier. We're going to talk to you about exactly what they do and go into some detail about kind of some of the trends that are probably happening, people need to be thinking about and doing things differently within the finances and the accounting side of their business. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me.
Thanks very much for having us.
Thanks.
John, you're a new starter with Stewart, right? So do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about your background and kind of why Mayachi, why Stewart?
So this is what, week 2 now, Stuart. Still very much in that sort of honeymoon period, and really sort of getting to the grips with everything that we do, both behind the scenes and then sort of the client and forward facing with recruiters, especially with the 2 hour free. I've known Stu for knocking on the door of a decade now. We've been in similar circles in the recruitment world, me on one side and him as a supplier once upon a time. We've sort of always worked alongside each other and picked each other's brains from time to time, especially over a beer, once or twice. Just working alongside some of the other suppliers in the industry. I've been more focused on a tech background. So I've been doing a lot more of the problem solving and supplying into, especially in that SaaS space, which I'm a big believer in automation, making life easier for everybody. And recruiters are great at selling, but it's good to be able to get them the tech to help them with the admin behind the scenes, really. So when Stu spoke to Stu about this, and his business is rapidly growing over the last sort of 2 years, I think he's been going, and just made sense that this would be a next step in my career, and able to learn loads from him on sort of more the supply side of things and advisory capacity with recruiters front of the line, really. Cool face.
Nice, like it. Stuart, why John?
You want to leave for this bit?
As John said, I met John, I said probably nearly 10 years ago now at the Global Recruiter Awards, and John was fresh into, I think it was ETZ at the time, it's a case of that we met over a few beers, and a few beers turned into a few more beers, and we just got on really, really well. And sort of every other event that we were at, John was there and I was there, and we would just get chatting, and it just continued over the years. Once I started Mayachi, I had a customer up in Manchester. And so I was turning around and saying, well, if I'm up in Manchester, I might as well go and see a few people. And I said, John, you fancy a beer? And so probably around about March time last year, me and John started, every time I would go up to Manchester, me and John would go out for a few beers, and I just kind of would say, it'd be really good for you to come on board. You're that right kind of person from Mayachi, you're that people person. You've kind of got that kind of ability to kind of learn and kind of project that to other people. So it just happened to be that kind of it must have been about midway through the year, John kind of said, look, I'm now really interested. We've been talking about it for so long now. Let's actually go ahead and do it. And so John left his previous company, took some time out, and we just kind of spoke a bit more about it. It was agreed the beginning of September John would start. It's just come at the right time. I'm as a consultancy business, there's only enough hours in the day and there's only enough days in the month in order to actually maintain and give that quality of service to clients. And I was noticing that not only with the maintaining of my current clients, but also giving that free 2 hour session to new startups and existing recruitment agencies, that my time was getting very limited. plus as well being an active member within team, and also with obviously the Recruitment Curry Club as well. I just felt it was the right time, and so with John coming on board, it's going to free up my time. I think I was too much in the business rather than on the business, and so it was starting to become, kind of a bit it was a bit. How can I put it, a bit jarded, we just didn't really know where we were going and things like that, and everything was kind of getting a little bit on top. But now with John there, we can kind of spread that load. I feel that we can give a better quality service to clients. John's got it from a different perspective, as I said, from this kind of tech stack and the kind of the way that John looks at it from a technology perspective, but still actually maintain that methodology that we have within Mayachi of actually providing that help and advice from an accountancy or a finance or all these different sides of the business that we're noticing with recruitment agencies every single day that they're just not getting. And so the John's only been here a week, and we've done, I think it's 5 free 2-hour sessions, and John's sort of learned a lot on every single session. I think John will tell you as well, it's a little bit different to where he's been background wise before on kind of generating leads, because the leads come to us, which is so nice. It's a big referral network. There's a big way of people actually saying, I've already had a meeting with Stewart, you should have a meeting with Stewart. Well, now it's actually not just Stewart, it's Mayachi, it's me and John. And we're trying to develop the brand as Mayachi rather than it's Stewart. It isn't Stewart, it's Mayachi now. And we want to kind of see this could be a replicatable service where it's not just John, but we have other people joining from the similar backgrounds to myself and John, and we could actually expand this out to multiple recruitment agencies, which I think is what's needed, really. There isn't anything like what we're providing at the moment out there.
No, definitely not. And when you look at it, I mean, 2 hours, of a free consultation, you've done 5 of those. That's 10 hours of your expertise and time that you guys are giving away for free. And I know you do this a lot, right? So what are the common things that you get asked? What do I expect from this consultation? Do you know what I mean? Like, let's assume I've been living under a rock and I don't know who Stewart is, and I've not been to an event where he's, either slamming down a few beers or, on the mic dropping a karaoke or something in between, right? Like, what do I expect as a recruitment business owner? And I've just got off the phone to my mate, and he's like, "Listen, you need to speak to these guys. They're good. I've just spent 2 hours and spent no money at all and saved a ton. What am I expecting?"
I think John can kind of answer that one, because obviously he's now seen it, and he could probably tell us what.
It's a bit where John's like, "I don't get it." Like,
This is where I fall flat on my face. I mean, it's classic. It's that you don't know what you don't know, and a lot of people that we're speaking to at the moment are ones that are great in their business. It's got everything all set up, all the systems, all the processes, all the things you don't even think about in business behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And they're great billers, and they've gone out to try and do the great billing, and they get sidetracked with all this other stuff, and things that they don't know about, and it's really sort of becoming a bit of a time waste. And then we spend 2 hours just going through them, saying, well, simple things like, are you claiming your work from home allowance? £26 a month. And, £26 a month doesn't sound load, but at the end of the year, it's, a few £100. And people are like, oh, can I claim that for me and my business partner who works in another? And you're like, yeah, it's £26 each. And then it's just things like that we go through. And then the classic we do is we really make sure people drill through their profit loss accounts and their balance sheets and really sort of understand what they're showing them, because you need data to make your decisions. There's no point sticking your finger in the air and going, I'm going to try this out. And with no founding to start from. So making sure that people understand the numbers and see what it's doing can then give them informed decisions to go further forward, whether that's bringing on a new person or, being able to draw better dividends from the business, and, making sure they're doing that effectively and, tax efficiently is really what we sort of focus on in those 2 hours.
So I think when John first started, I think he was kind of like, what can we talk about for 2 hours regarding finance? But it is actually when you start talking and the questions then start coming over. And I think this is where recruiters don't know what questions they're supposed to ask, because accountants are not giving over any information. So there's no forward and backwards. Recruiters are very much good at talking, and they go backwards and forwards, and they feed off of one conversation leads to another conversation. And if their accountants have never had that conversation with them from the very start, then it's a case of then that conversation never starts at all, and it never then continues. And so what John has realised over that kind of 2-hour period, we are actually, we go through it. It is like a script, but it's a case of that there is no, it's not like that's going to take 2 minutes and that's going to take 2 minutes. Sometimes one section might take us 15 minutes and another section might take us 2 minutes. So, but we go through the whole lot and we make sure, and it does actually fit within the 2 hours. I think obviously the attention span of a recruiter when you're talking about numbers, or probably anyone, and you start talking about numbers, is probably 2 hours as a maximum. So you don't want to have it any longer. But during that time, the people that come off and they go, I now know more about my business than I did on the beginning of this call. They turn around and they say, I'm going to make changes to my business based on what you have told me. And I think that's what has surprised John, I think, more than anything, is he's turned around and gone, wow, that person at the end has now made sure that he runs his business. He's now not an employee, he's now a director. He now knows exactly what he should do with his business and seen the turnaround on it. So, yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's like a combination of factors, because you obviously, you've got the lack of business literacy certainly because recruitment is a very straightforward business to set up, and there's some incredible suppliers out there who can make your life so easy, in that all you have to do is be able to do the recruitment part of the job. Everything else is done for you. The website's made for you, and the back office is done for you, and your candidates are paid for you, and the CRM does most of the heavy lifting in terms of data, and you can buy data now and all the rest of it, and everything in between with automation and so on. But you kind of we sort of ignore the fact sometimes that actually these guys are maybe a bit illiterate when it comes to running a business. Couple that in then with, traditionally an accountant's job is to retrospectively look at what you did, make the most tax efficient place in pot to put that into, and then go, okay, and there's your tax bill at the end. That's the best I can do with it, sort of thing. Not advise you, not go hand in hand with you and go, okay, actually, do you know what? You're doing this. Have you thought about doing this? Because tax efficiency and and an example I've got is that I'm sort of sat here toying around with the idea of a new car, and I will message my accountant and go, listen, I'm looking at, do I go salary sacrifice? Do I go business lease, or do I just get it in personal and just the money that I take out of the business in terms of salary and dividends, just use that? Like, what's the most effective way? And the response I got back was, it's up to you, really. And I'm like, literally, I'm like, motherfucker, that's not what I want from you, right? Sit there, maybe look at it and go, listen, Nitin, I do all of your personal taxes, I do all of your business taxes. You are, a high rate taxpayer, or you're not a high rate taxpayer. The BIC on that car, what car are you looking at? Actually, that one's probably not. Don't do salary sacrifice. In fact, no, do this instead. I know you're not taking a huge amount out of the business. How are you really going to feel about taking, that out on a monthly basis just to pay for a car? Work with me. Give me some education on the matter, right? Where it just kind of, it's up to you, really, isn't it? Whichever way you want to do it. And I'm like,
I think what it is as well is accountants seem to talk in accountants' language. Yeah. It's like what they want to try and do is portray that they know this so much by giving you a load of jargon and a load of stuff, and you look at it and go, I'm still none the wiser.
Yeah. And it's like, listen, I'm happy to hold my hand up and go, look, I don't know nothing, and I know you know more than me. So let's let's put that to a side, and let's now move on to the help me. I remember the first month of opening my first business, and I'm so excited and all the rest of it and blah, blah, blah. And I ring my accountant and I'm like, so are you going to send me like a pay slip, or like, how do I pay myself? And he's like, just take it out of the bank. And I'm like, right, yeah, but like, do I have to, pay my taxes first? He's like, no, we'll just do it at the end of the year. And I'm like, I'm so fucking dumb. I don't even know. I'm not understanding how this works. Like, do you know what I mean? So I've gone from employment to self-employment and I don't get it, right? And then you go further on and further on, and years down the line, I looked at it and was like, that was bad advice, actually. So the way we did it was we took out business startup loans to fund the initial kind of 6 months, and rather than putting that money into the business and then drip feeding that out as a salary, we just kept it in the bank and drip fed ourselves a salary from our personal ISAs. And then at the end of the year, we're like, what's this overdrawn director's loan account? There shouldn't be. And they're like, well, oh no, you started on zero and you've taken more than you've made. And was like, but we didn't. Hang on a minute. Like, so if we would have just put that money in the bank, that would have done this. And they were like, yeah. So where was that advice? It was like, wow, yeah, you didn't ask.
Yeah, as I said, it's we don't know the questions you should be asking accountants, and so what happens is that they then don't volunteer the questions you should be asking, and then they don't give you the right answers or the answers in a way that you will understand. And recruiters don't want to kind of turn around, or anyone really doesn't want to turn around and make themselves sound like they don't know what they're hearing.
Exactly.
Repeat it.
Yeah.
So they just nod along and go, yeah, I understand it, and then they go, actually, I didn't actually understand that at all. Can you tell me it again? They should do.
So look, these 2 hours, John, you touched on one of the things like the work from home allowance, for example. I mean, but I know and have recommended people across to you who have gone thousands. I've just saved thousands in 2 hours. 26 quid a month's not doing that. So what kind of things are coming up where you're like, what things do people need to be listening out for now going, oh shit, okay, I didn't think of that.
I think one of the first things we always do before we even get on the call is we always have a look at the way that the company is set up. So we always look at the shareholding of the company. So one of the first things we do is if there's multiple directors, how is the share scheme set up to basically say, are they, there was one we spoke to yesterday, 2 directors, 2 shareholders, they had 100 shares, which is great because sometimes it can just be that they've got 2 shares instead of 100. And they set it up with the 100 shares, but they both had ordinary shares. Mm-hmm. So they both had 50-50 ordinary shares. Now what that meant is they both, if the company makes 100 grand that they want to distribute, they have to take 50 grand each. But it might be that that's not tax efficient for one of the directors. He might not want to take his full £50,000 if the other person takes his £50,000. So what they should be doing really is they should be setting themselves up so one of them has 50 ordinary shares and one of them has 50 A-class shares. Right. And by doing that, one of them could take £30,000 and the other one could take £50,000, or one of them could take 70, because you're allocating the dividends to each of the class of shares.
And does that class of share change your significance in the company? As in, like,
no.
As an ordinary shareholder versus an A-class shareholder, can I go, I've got final say, or I can buy you out?
No, not at all, because each of those shares has the same rights. You can actually dictate the same rights against each of the share classes. It is purely just for dividend purposes, because you can't turn around if you both got the same class of shares and one take more than the other. It's always got to be the same balance. And as I said, if one person has rental property, maybe they're getting money from other companies or something like that, and they don't need to take their full dividends, then it's a case of that could detriment them and actually taking more money than they actually, they're paying more tax than they have to. Mm-hmm. And then you've then got the other way as well, is we look at the shareholding, and I always ask the questions, are you married? And the reason for that is because you could potentially give your spouse, or you could gift your spouse, because it's the only way really you can do it, is gifting your spouse a minority shareholding, again with a different class of shares, and using your wife or husband's share tax allowances to minimise the amount of personal tax that you're paying. It's probably, unfortunately I say, it's the only reason why you would ever get married really, is actually to use the allowances between the two of you, because it's I'm a man who's 2 divorces down, so
I was literally just about to, like, do I say that, like, spoken like a man with 2 divorces.
But it is a case of that you could use your wife or husband's tax allowances. It might be that you only take 100 grand out of the company, and you might then be able to split it, and both of you might be paying tax at kind of 8.75% tax rather than moving into that 33.7% tax. It's a 25% tax difference.
Big difference, yeah.
And so it's those kind of things that we go through on the very early part of it, is to kind of ascertain that, and that could be a massive tax saving from a personal perspective on taking money correctly from your company. And it's amazing the accountants aren't making those recommendations, or even they're setting the companies up for people, and they're setting them up just as ordinary shares.
Why do you think they do that? Why do you think that's happening? Because they're obviously not. It can't. Is it just because it's easier? They can't be asked to explain it. or
Yeah.
they don't care?
I think it is. I think it's just laziness. Yeah, it's a case of they just follow what goes on in company's house and just stick it like that. But they don't seem to I had one accountant turning around and say, "Well, that's tax evasion." And I was like, "No, it's not at all." And I kind of had to pull off the legislation that basically showed that this is something you can do and should be doing with your company. So it's a case of either they're not educated about company law and company secretarial law. They are accountants, so it's maybe more on the numbers side, but it is a case of under company secretarial kind of processes, you should actually know that this is exactly how you should be setting a company up. And I always look to see how many shares they've got as a future, kind of interest as well. If they've only got one share, maybe increase it up to the kind of 99 shares, buy another 99 to make it to that 100 shares. It makes it easy for you to split those later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's those are the things that me and John have both started off, looking at even before we've made the call and make those suggestions, which makes an instant saving on the personal tax side. So, no one wants to pay a lot of personal tax, on the money they're taking from the business. So that's the first and easiest way we can do it.
Nice. Okay. And what about from the business side? What kind of things are you getting under the hood on and sort of investigating there?
It's mainly when we go through the management accounts. I always go through the profit and loss, and the profit and loss, I always make sure that they understand all of the different elements of expenses that they should be taking from their business.
Mm-hmm.
So as John mentioned, kind of things like home office allowance, but it's things like mileage. They shouldn't be putting petrol. They shouldn't be putting petrol receipts through their business. It should be that every single month they're putting a mileage log into their business, because it's a bit like where you said before, when you run a business, you're self-employed. Well, actually, you're not. You're an employee of your own limited company. And what you've got to do is when you were working for your last business or your last company where you were an employee, if your boss turned around to you and said, "John, I need you to go and see this client on this day and take them out for lunch because we really want to kind of win some more business from them." So John would get in his car, he would drive to see the client, he would have lunch with the client using his own money, and then he would drive back. And the next day, John would go to his boss, he'd fill an expense claim form and a mileage claim in, and at the end of the month, he'd get reimbursed that because he'd used his own personal money to actually get that money back tax-free because it is a reimbursable expense. And that goes against the company, which reduces the corporation tax. Obviously, entertaining a client won't reduce the corporation tax because you don't get corporation tax relief on that, but still it's best to put it through the business as a cost. So as a recruitment director, you should do exactly the same thing. If you are ever paying out for anything that's business related from your own personal bank account, and a lot of people when they start their business are doing this, they should be on a monthly basis recording on an expense claim form, or if they've got money in the bank, then pay it from the company bank account. But they've probably got transactions and they're going, "I don't have enough money in my company account, so let's use my own bank money." If you do that, claim it back because you get the money reimbursed back to you tax-free because it is actually a reimbursement of expenses, and those costs could reduce your corporation tax. And if they've got VAT on them as well and you've got the receipt, you can claim the VAT back on them. And this is what we're noticing a lot is people are going, "Yeah, I didn't claim for that lunch. I didn't claim for that cup of coffee. I didn't claim for that dinner I had with that client because I didn't have enough money in my company bank account. I don't want to show a loss on my company at these early stages." And I'm like, but you're paying corporation tax on this. You're losing out on the VAT claim. And as I always say, if you spend £100 of your own money, you're actually spending £130 because in order for you to personally get £100, you need to earn 130, take off the tax and national insurance before you get to that point. Well, if the company pays for it, it's £100. It's not 130 quid, it's £100. And then if it's got VAT, you can reduce that down to kind of like 60 or £83. And if you take the corporation tax off, it goes down to £67. Would you rather it be a £67 cost or a £130 cost? I think I know which one I'd do, definitely.
Yeah. Explain that mentality. You touched on it then about I don't want to be filing a loss in my first few years. Explain that mentality because I hear that a lot as well.
There's no reason to worry about it. It's a case of most businesses in their first year will probably show a loss, but these are recruiters who are doing large placements. They're probably not going to be doing enough expenses to kind of wipe out their profit completely. Maybe in the early stages they might have higher costs because they've got the setup costs and things like that. But as that business gets bigger over the next kind of 9 months, month 9, 10, 11, 12, you're probably going to see that the profit's going to go up. And then you're going, right, how do I reduce my corporation tax? And you're having to go back over the first 9 months to pull up all those, find those receipts and look for all those bank transactions. Why not do it from the beginning every single month and then watch the company grow and exceed that and actually make profit afterwards? But if you want to kind of wait till the end of the year and then pay loads and loads of corporation tax and then get distracted when you're on a roll of actually doing all these placements to go, I've got to go back now and do all this receipts and all the rest of it. People go, oh, I'll just forget about it. And I'm like, why? You know, there was one of the team members I had a meeting with, and I saw her at one of the meetings. She said, thank you so much, Stuart. You saved me like £9,000 because she was putting nothing through her business. And it was personal tax and it was also corporation tax that she had saved £9,000 on, because she put those expenses into the business, which reduced the corporation tax, and then she got reimbursed that money, so she didn't have to take as much dividend, and dividends you have to pay tax on. So that's how she said she'd worked out the £9,000 in that way.
Which fundamentally comes down to us. Well, I get it. It's because people are running their business accounts and their business finances like you would run your personal finances, right? You don't want to use your overdraft. You want to pay your credit off as quick as you can. You know, all the good stuff that you should be taught that you're not necessarily taught at school. Whereas on the business side, so no, I get it. In fact, when I was doing RecTalk and RecTools for the first sort of 3 months, I was like, no, I'm not going to put anything through the business. I'll pay for it. I got, when we got the studio, I was like, right, okay, I've got to equip the studio, blah, blah. Now, screw it, I'll pay for it because I want to keep the accounts looking clean. And then you're like, but for who? Like, for who? Yeah. No one gives a shit. And it's not like you're hiding anything. They're going to look at it and go, oh, hang on a minute, what was all of this expenses here? You know, spent nearly £800 in Denelm, like, through your business. What is that? I have a podcast studio. Well, that makes sense then. Brilliant. Okay. And have you got the receipts for that? Because we can claim back a lot of that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a business expense because it's fixtures and fittings and furniture and that kind of thing. But at the time, my mentality was, no, I want to keep it clean. I don't want to, you know what I mean? I like it clean. And I imagine there's a lot of people like that.
HMRC as well don't like you to put retrospective receipts really onto your books or from a VAT return perspective. So if you're then putting all those receipts in 9 months later and the receipts actually say the dates 9 months before, they could turn around to you and go, well, hang a minute, are you not doing your books and records correctly? And they might launch an investigation. Yeah. But if you do them as you go along, you're going to get that VAT back. You know, I know in my own business, my first quarter was basically a VAT refund because I had all my startup expenses and all the rest of it. Yes, I didn't make any profit, but I got the money back into my bank account a lot quicker because it was a refund because I paid out more money to my suppliers for part of the startup than actually I billed my clients. And so why wouldn't you do that? Get the money in your pockets, your money that you've spent, get it back into your business, and it helps your cash flow. It doesn't hinder your cash flow, and it's probably the better way to do it. So definitely.
So small business owners then, so your solopreneurs, your 2-3 person businesses, right? All business partners, all on the tools. Should I be putting my mobile phone through the business? Yeah.
John?
Yeah. If it's using for the business and you think it's going to be, you know, we spoke to a recruiter the other day and he was like, oh, I've got a work phone, but I've also got a personal phone. But I take calls on both because my number's out there with so many people on for one device or the other. So he's always got 2 phones on him. And he's taking calls left and right on both of them. So why not put both of them through the business? So, you know, you get family plans and all that sort of stuff as well. And as Stu says, you know, corporation and VAT and all that, it sorts itself out. So it is back to a change of mindset and really go, right, you know, forget all the tidiness of the books, like what is and isn't a business expense, put that through and get it all sorted by an accountant at the end of the month. Just put it through and sort it later, because at the end of the day, you do want to get a VAT refund if you do one. Yeah. And you do want to lower that corporation tax as well. So
no, it makes sense. What's your guys' opinion on, and I say this because I know I can think of at least 4 business owners that started up in the last 12 months that did exactly this, right? They started up and immediately went and got themselves either a Tesla or a Polestar through the business. What are your thoughts on people that are going out and getting company, you know, just front loading the business with, I need an office because, you know, I need one. And also, you know, so I've got a fancy WeWork somewhere and I've gone and got a Polestar or a Tesla because, you know, it's on offer and they're doing them on good deals, and I can put it through the business.
Well, I'll be surprised how they got it through the business, because obviously normally you need 2 years accounts to get a company lease. Although I know there is some higher rate lease companies that will do it on new businesses, so they're probably paying higher rate leases. You know, I would always wait a couple of years before you when you can actually get a lease.
Mm-hmm.
Company cars, yes, it is more tax efficient if it is an electric car. I wouldn't go down the route of getting a diesel or a petrol car, because you're going to probably be looking at, you know, benefit in kind rates of between 25 and 35%. Whereas if you're going to be doing an electric car, you're looking at probably a 3% benefit in kind, which means the value of the car when it's brand new, you'll pay tax at 3% of that value.
Mm.
So this is why you always as well buy a brand new car on a lease.
Mm-hmm.
You don't ever do where you buy a second-hand car on a lease, or actually buy a second-hand car as an asset for the business, because it's going to be based on the value of the car when it was brand new. I remember talking to a guy, and he bought a 1985 Mercedes because he loved Mercedes, and he bought it for £8,000, and he thought his benefit in kind was going to be based on the £8,000 that he bought the car for. And it's like, what was the value of the car back in 1985? And basically got it, you know, had a look at the value, and it was his benefit in kind was actually going to be more than £8,000 he actually paid for the car. So it's a case of it didn't make any sense for him to do that. But if he'd actually gone out and got a Mercedes from Mercedes, and it was a pure electric car, he would have only paid 3% of that value as a.
Taking that scenario though, Stuart, I like classic cars, and I see a car for. In fact, no, we had this right. So when I ran my recruitment business, I bought a at the time it was like a 20-year-old Porsche Boxster. Always wanted a Porsche. Found a really nice one. Was like, that's what I'm going to buy, and it was about $8,500. And my business partner at the time was like, "Why don't you just buy it through the business? Why don't you just buy it through the business?" And I was like, "Well, I don't want to. Like, I want to buy this car. You know, yeah, but you can like just if we buy it through the business, it'll be an asset on the business." So I was like, "Yeah, but I don't want it to be an asset on the business." And in the end, I used my own personal funds to do it. Was there a more tax efficient way for me to have done that, i.e. dividends, i.e. you know what I mean, loan myself the money from the business, or is there a more clever way to do it?
That would be the way to do it. Is basically pay for it using dividends from the company, because that rate would be much lower than obviously what you would probably pay on a P11D. Plus as well, obviously, if you buy something like that that's an asset, it's a bit like if you go out and you buy a building, or you buy something that's of substantial value, like if you bought a very nice Porsche and it was quite obviously a vintage model and it was kind of nice. The problem is if your company goes bust or can't pay its HMRC, then the first thing HMRC is going to do is look at your assets and go, well, if you sold that Porsche, you could pay us back. If you sold that building, you could pay us back. Or if the company goes into liquidation, then the company's that's owned by the company, and that's going to go part of the liquidator. So why would you want to put an asset like that through the business, whereas potentially you could lose that asset basically to an auction or something like that? They're not going to go and get the best possible price. They're going to go, well, someone's offered us this much money, that pays us off. Yeah. Yes, we're going to take it.
That's
so
it. Yeah.
You're
buying somebody else a really nice Porsche. Is what you're doing, right?
Definitely. So you actually buying it yourself, but supplementing it either through your dividends. Yes, you could take maybe a director's loan initially, and then obviously pay that back up, but you have to pay it. The rules have changed now regarding director's loan. They changed last October, so you now have to clear your director's loans. You can't do this, what was called bed and breakfasting, where you could pay it off for 30 days and then you could roll in a new director's loan. Nowadays, you do actually need to pay it off. And if it continues, then you've got more Section 455 tax. So Section 455 tax is 33.75% of what that director's loan is. Yeah. So it can be quite hefty. There is kind of ways you can kind of use a director's loan during that year. Obviously, you sort of take your money and then you pay off a dividend at the end of the year, as long as it's cleared within that 9-month period. But it's still better for you to take a dividend to buy that car, not to put the car through the business. You'd end up probably paying more tax, the company would pay more tax, and you would end up personally obviously losing that tax money as well on your allowances, because it would go as a benefit in kind.
And it's not your car.
Exactly, it's the company owns it, and if you did want to if the company closed, you would have to buy it off the company.
Yeah.
In that respect, so you're paying out for it in some ways twice. You're paying the tax on it all
Yeah,
those years, and then you have to buy it back all over again. So,
no,
and you can't buy it back for a penny. You got to buy it back for the value that's on the company
fair market
books.
value
So,
and all that. Yeah. Fair enough. So okay, so we go through all of this, right? We've had our 2 hour session. You've sat here and you've gone, okay, there's savings here to be made, and so on and so forth. What's the next step? As in, what's the additional value then? And this has just been paying devil's advocate and out of genuine curiosity. What's the additional value for me to then continue engaging with you? Because you're not an accountancy practice, are you? You're not going to actually file my accounts for me and all the rest of it. So what are you then going to continually do for me moving forward for me to be like, yeah, this makes sense?
what it is if you were to go out and get an FD for your business, you would probably be looking at between £100,000 to £150,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And on a smaller business, and I'm talking SME, even up to kind of 15, 20 internal staff, you would probably still have that FD sitting around twiddling their thumbs, because an FD still isn't going to do the bookkeeping. They're not going to do the invoicing. They're probably not even going to produce the management accounts. They're just going to be there as an advisor. So they're going to be twiddling their thumbs for 3/4 of the month, and then they'll pop up once the management accounts are done and go, here's all the things that we can do. And then they go back into their little box and again. It's just not worthwhile having a full-time FD on your books. So what we're doing as a service is we're providing this FD in a kind of a part-time basis, a fractional CFO, fractional FD, where you just pay for a meeting, or we have some clients who pay for a day, a month, or something like that, where we then can go in, look at the numbers, look at what's happened, then we can make plans about what goes forward with the business. We can look at things like cash flow, we look at funding, we look at if they're doing contractors, is their current funding model actually working? Mm-hmm. Or do we need to maybe look at actually moving them to a different invoice finance or a different way of funding their business? It might be talking about exit. So I've got a couple of agencies where I'm working with them where they're looking at, let's plan our exit over the next 2 years or 3 years. And actually that's financial planning that needs to be done. And it's something that an accountant doesn't normally have the time for, or actually will offer as a service, and won't be recruitment specific. Whereas what we're doing is we're doing that bit. But as you said, we don't do the accounts. So we work with accountants, and we say, we would like these reports, we'd like this additional reports, and then we then can provide that data. And that's, it's once a month really that the directors...
You're holding the accountants to account.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the thing that's where I imagine, again, talking from experience, that's where it becomes kind of a challenge where you're like, I feel like my accountant could do more for me. I feel like I'm not getting the full picture here. I feel like, but I've got no real evidence to prove that. I've got no justification to do that because I'm not, they're the experts, not me. Having someone like you guys, somebody like Mayachi in your corner is to kind of then be like, no, we want management accounts on a regular basis. We want to go through those. We want to look at, help you forecast, but also then hold your accountant to account and go, you've missed out on all of these. What's going on? Why have you not done this properly? Or you haven't done that properly? Or why at this point haven't you intervened and said, the funding model is not working, or you're paying way more than you need to on charges. Maybe you should look at a different solution,
Well, John one of the first calls that John was on actually on that first Monday when he started was with an agency who we were looking at her invoice finance because, she'd had her 2 hours call, and this was probably this time last year, we'd actually had that first call. But I've always kept in touch with her, and it's a light touch. It's a case of I'm not there to go every quarter, right, let's have a meeting. It's up to the director. They're running their business. I'm not there to kind of push my service down their throats. It's up to them if they want to. And she provided all the information. And John and me went through the projections. John, do you want to tell how much money we saved her based on the projections we did?
I mean, we've done a few now, but I think it was about 23,000 in the end. It's sort of the thing. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But sometimes it is broken, and it's back to that. You don't know what you don't know. So being able to use sort of our knowledge, our understanding of the market, and use us as a sounding board, really, you can sort of drill into the numbers and the details and be like, well, if you change this, or do you need that? It's just part of the Mayachi service, really.
I love that. Genuinely, yeah. No, I think that's incredible, isn't it? So how do guys get in touch with you and kind of get on this 2-hour free service consultation? Kind of, what's the best process now? Because it used to be just call Stewart, but Stewart doesn't answer his phone anymore.
Too busy.
I do indeed, but yeah, it's a case of I'm quite often on a 2-hour free call. It's just go through the website, so www.mayachi.co.uk, or contact me and John via LinkedIn. So we're hopefully people have seen our videos, people have seen our posts. We have a number of our guides that are on our website that you can download as well, and that will give us your details, and then that will then prompts obviously conversations as well. Obviously, me and John as well are the kind of people that you see here, there, and everywhere as well. So obviously, we're part of the Curry Club, so it's a case of I'm always at the London one comes up on the 24th, so I'm the ambassador for that one along with Joe, and so yeah, that's been a great way to network with recruiters and suppliers. Team are a great company for us as an association to really kind of help the brand new starts, the one-man bands, the solopreneurs and all of those. And a lot of our introductions come from team, and I think a lot of the team members have really kind of seen the benefits. But we want everyone in the recruitment industry to kind of get this.
It's not a pay-to-play kind of thing, is it? You don't have to be part of a community to get involved. You just get in touch with you guys.
No, but it's also what we do is we try and make it a bit of a community afterwards. So about 3 months ago, I did a dinner with 9 of the Mayachi customers. And we took them out for a really nice meal, and a lot of them were solopreneurs. So this was like one of the first times they were actually in a kind of a networking kind of scenario.
Lovely.
But it became very much a case of it was about the dinner, and the dinner then turned into conversation. And it was just a really, really nice evening where we were taking them out and basically letting them have a bit more time to actually speak to other directors, and the other directors maybe going, how are you finding it? And they're going, yeah, it's a bit tough at the moment. I go, yeah, I'm finding it a bit tough. And I go, which technology are you using? And things like that. And then suddenly the conversation, they realise that they're not just the only person in the room who's actually having those issues. And we just find that kind of, having a bit of a social atmosphere to it really does help. And, that's why obviously the Curry Club does so well, but it is more a case of that we're trying to bring that to the Mayachi community.
Yeah.
Every person who has a 2-hour free, I always turn around and say, you are like an unofficial Mayachi customer now. And what you'll do is things like on the 26th of November, all of the people who have had the 2-hour free over the last kind of 18 months will actually get a copy of a budget summary that's recruitment specific. And actually that then also shows that we're willing to just give information. It's about this information share. It's giving out, we're not, the 2 hours for free. I think we've worked out, we've done something like 90 free 2-hour sessions, in the last kind of 18 months. As you said, that's 180 hours. That's, it's a large amount of our time, considering me and John only normally work Monday to Thursday. So, but it is more a case of that. We are here to give away knowledge. We want the best for the recruitment industry. We want recruiters to succeed. And if it means that they can be more successful by keeping hold of a lot more of their money rather than paying tax, we're not saying don't pay tax and you have to pay tax. But what it is being smart about how you're actually running your business. So actually you might not be paying tax that isn't actually due. And so that's the whole point of it, really.
No, I love that. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I think this has been a really insightful episode. Guys, those of you who want to get in touch and find out more about Mayachi or take advantage of your 2-hour consultation, links to both of their LinkedIns and websites will be in the descriptions below. John, I look forward to seeing you at Curry Club at some point.
Yeah, I did one in Chester recently.
Oh, but yeah. No, I've got a. Yeah, I took 2 weeks of July and all of August off. And a lot of the curry clubs were happening during that time, and I was like, I'm not going to any of them. I'm not doing it. So, yeah, I've got one to go to today. Actually, we're doing our first ever lunchtime one in Birmingham.
Of course you are. Yeah. Well, John's going to be at the one in Manchester. Hopefully after that, I think there's a team one after the Manchester meeting.
Yeah.
So John will be at that one. As I said, I'll be at the 24th. and I'm hoping to come to some of the others as well. So it's a case of that. Yeah, it's going to be John's going to be around, and we'll both be at the Recruitment Agency Expo for both of them as well. So actually, we'll both be at the Curry Club after in between the expo as well. So try and find us. We'll be wearing our Mayachi t-shirts and our Mayachi caps. So you'll definitely notice us, and we'll be giving out the guides, and we'll be wandering around. We've not got a stand. We'll be wandering around, saying hello to lots of people. So if you see us, just obviously tap us on the shoulder, and we'll have a conversation, and maybe book a meeting that way. So
And if you can't find them at the Recruitment Expo and at the actual expo bit, just leave the building, go across the road. There's a Weatherspoons, and they'll be in there.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. It's the best way to be. So and we'll buy a beer for you as well. So,
excellent. Oh wait, 2 hours free and a free pint. Oh yeah,
that's it. Exactly.
Chaps, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck, genuinely, and we'll see you guys again. Thank you.
Fantastic. Cheers, Nitin.